So, I've received a lot of positive feedback on my Clear Sky tutorial. A lot of people seem to find it very helpful. Really appreciate all the nice comments, by the way. But, on the other hand, I've also received a lot of criticism for that tutorial, most notably that doing Clear Sky in that way, that would be impossible to pull off on consoles because of the inferior aiming with a controller and stuff like that. Even on Reddit, I took quite some heat from users such as Professional Man or Benji, calling me out saying what I presented in that video is simply not possible on consoles. Quote here, "You are just a YouTuber, not a pro PvPer or expert player, so what makes you think that you can do it in 5 minutes when no one else is able to do it, including the top players on console?" End quote. Now, I'm not sure what PvP has to do with any of that, but anyway, I had my doubts about that statement. I offered them something in the form of a stream where me and my team would be doing the incursion under 5 minutes using controllers. But of course, then you had the argument that it is still not the same as truly playing on a console, as the experience would still be too different. Basically, a whole lot of back and forth. I'll spare you the rest of the story and all of the other comments from everybody else. And I'll just get to the point of this video. Obviously, I couldn't help myself. You know how I am. You know I like to win pointless arguments over the internet for no reason at all. And you know that I kinda got caught out here. I couldn't just walk away from this conversation getting roasted like that. Not on my watch. I'm sorry guys, but I just couldn't do it. So I was going to do the only thing that would objectively prove them wrong. I was going to do the quote-unquote impossible, and that is a sub 5 minute Clear Sky heroic run on console with a controller, of course. So I got myself an Xbox One. I got myself an Elgato capture card. I dug up some old Xbox Live account that I had from when the game just launched with a good old level 31 Vector as my weapon with of course Restored as my talent of choice. And then I hit up some guys from Upper Echolon Gaming who I knew also had an Xbox One. I asked if they wanted to be my teammates in this mission to do the impossible, to which they very luckily said yes, and we got going. So let's start with the video and see how that went. I said in my tutorial video that a good build was half of the work, and I still stand by that point. Obviously, with the build that I currently had on the Xbox One, this whole challenge thing was a lost cause. Now, I didn't have the time to min-max a character completely on the Xbox One, but the guys from Upper Echolon were luckily also kind enough to carry me through some World Tier 5 HVTs and then feed me all of the loot afterwards. This way we could see what I could put together from all the stuff and hopefully create something that would be usable in the incursion. This is what I ended up with. I know, it's still far away from something that could pass on as a good build, but I had something in the general direction of my 1.6 PvP healer build. I had 4-piece Tactician, I had Vigorous, I had Inventive, I had some shitty M4 with Deadly Incompetent, but I had a build. My teammates were of course a little more min-max, but I wouldn't say that they ran top of the line builds either, because as some of you may know, a lot of the Upper Echolon guys also quit the game in 1.6, so nobody really had something min-maxed. One other obstacle that I ran in though, which I didn't really think about prior to this whole thing, is that the guys from Upper Echolon are all Americans. Which, you know, I got nothing against Americans, but it meant that I was forced to play on American servers, which added about a 250 to 300 millisecond delay to everything that I did. So I would pop a medkit or a heal, and only a quarter of a second later, it would actually heal me. Now add that to the already existing heal delays, and things could get pretty problematic. Regardless though, I went into it with the mindset that I would just have to get used to this, and after a few hours of playing, that's exactly what happened. The gameplay didn't feel particularly smooth or good, but I did get used to it and I was able to play like this. The start of our runs, they were pretty horrendous. I got nothing against the guys from Upper Echolon, but it was very obvious that they were rusty as fuck. That isn't a weird thing considering that they hadn't touched the game for a few months now, but it didn't exactly help either. And me? I am a guy who hadn't played on the Xbox for years now. Put those two together and you got a recipe for disaster, and that's what this was, a disaster. We had wipe after wipe, ending up with runs that took us as long as 20 to 25 minutes. Now I don't want to say that we got toxic, but at one point the morale of the squad definitely went down. Luckily, and this was probably one of the most important things, nobody was ill to constructive criticism. We gave each other tips, pointed out each other's mistakes, tried new builds and setups, tried to proc buffs at different times, and after a while, we managed to shave down runs to about 7 minutes per run, pretty smooth, but still not nearly close enough to the 5-minute mark that I oh so desperately wanted to reach. It was either we ran with 3 damage dealers and 1 healer and we would have a very high wipe rate, basically because we would get killed, Or we would have 2 healers and 2 damage dealers and lack the amount of damage required to clear the mobs fast enough to really shave off more time. We tried a couple of hybrid builds as well, but that pretty much gave us the worst of both worlds, a high wipe rate and a lack of damage. Things were not looking good. At one point though, one of the upper echelon guys had to go and we brought in this guy called DJA the Great. And I think that this was really the turning point of the night. This guy had been playing 1.6 on a near daily basis. He had a fully min-max striker build with an SASG which he could use to get stacks fast, and he had a ton of enemy armor damage and damage to elites, and this guy was just melting through the NPCs like we hadn't seen before. The first clean run we did with him had a time of 5 minutes and 45 seconds. I never told him this in-game, so I'm just gonna say it now, but this was the guy we oh so desperately needed. Now after seeing that time, after seeing that fast of a run, the morale of the squad jumped back up. We min-maxed our builds where we could, you know, adding 4% extra damage to elites here and then a few extra percentages of enemy armor damage there. And keep in mind that we also completed Clear Sky a lot of times meanwhile, so any better loot that I could get, I just used that, you know? And with that, the tryharding had really begun. If even so much as an NPC with the bomb ran in the wrong direction, we would restart. If we would be 5 seconds late on a heavy kill, restart. If NPCs would take an unoptimal pathing, which made it hard for us to shoot him, restart, restart, restart. Hours went by, we got 5:30, then 5:20, 5:10, 5:05, and then finally, we got a run that was 5 minutes and 10 frames long. I would say that under normal circumstances, I would have said that this would be enough proof that a sub 5 minute run is possible. The 5 minute and 10 frame run wasn't really perfect either. It wasn't even close to being perfect. But everybody agreed that we just had to get a run under 5 minutes to really prove it. And then we almost had it. I'd say that we were very close to doing a near perfect run. We had everything going the right way. All the RNG with the mortar shots and the box spawns and the NPC spawns, it just went our way. But it's almost as if the game didn't want us to get it, because believe it or not, that run right as the boss spawned, someone disconnected and we ended up having to do the last part with 3 people, resulting in a 5 minute and 7 second run. Now that was a true kick to the balls, and you can probably imagine that the morale went down low right after that. Everybody was already tired. But for some reason, we still kept going. We really wanted that sub 5 minute run. I think about an hour went by, and then finally, in one of our sloppy runs where we were all just kind of doing whatever, we surprisingly ended up with a time of 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Something that none of us had expected at the end of the run, but apparently that run we did some stuff to cut out some time somewhere that we didn't do before. Maybe it was running to the second box a few seconds sooner, maybe it was popping the tech link a second time in the mission to kill the very last mob, or maybe we just got lucky with some NPC RNG spawns. Maybe it was a combination of all of those, but honestly, I don't think we cared too much. All we cared about is that after 8 hours of doing Clear Sky over and over and over again until we pretty much perfected it as much as we could, I could now go back to the Reddit comment section and tell this guy to go fuck himself. Okay, I'm kidding. I didn't actually do that. Yet. On a serious note, we did it. We did the quote-unquote impossible. We beat Clear Sky under 5 minutes with high ping and a pretty bad connection. I'll link you both the 5 minute run and the 4 minute and 59 second run in the description box down below, so you can check them out for yourself if you're excited to see my bad controller aim. And this indeed would be the point of the video where I would get to say, see? I told you it's not impossible. I told you you could do it. I just proved you wrong. I am right and you are wrong. Haha, get good fag. But honestly, guys, that's not what I'm going to do. Sure, there are a lot of people out there that have excuses ready for everything when they can't complete certain activities. You could blame the rogue bullies, you could blame your build, the lag, whatever. And there will always be people that claim things to be impossible and will stay mediocre at best forever. I'm not saying that this guy is one of them, I'm just saying that there are people in general that are like that. It's the same for different games as well. I'm only silver, but I belong in platinum, I just get bad teammates every game. We've all heard that excuse. That's not what this video is about. Not anymore, at least. I mean, in the beginning, this video was set out to prove that if you're good enough and your team's good enough, you know, all of this stuff is possible. But I also think that A far more important message can be taken from this, and that is that the console version of this game simply is not the same as the PC version. Completing the heroic and legendary activities like this is exponentially more challenging on console. This is mostly down to the controller, who just doesn't give you that same amount of control over your character. Aiming is a big part of it, you deal less damage because you can't quite hit the head as easily as on PC. But also, more importantly, as a direct result of that, players on consoles also receive more damage from NPCs, because if you deal enough damage, then the NPCs will most of the time get staggered and will not be firing back. They will jump into cover because they're scared of your high damage. That happens a lot on PC, but on console, to do that same amount of damage required to get mobs to stagger and duck away in cover, to be afraid of you, that's near impossible. So not only do the NPCs die slower, but when they are alive, they also deal a lot more damage, making the content just so much more difficult, which is also why so often, even with a good team on consoles, we just got overwhelmed and we just had wipe after wipe after wipe. Well, had we done the same thing, the very same thing on PC, it would have been a piece of cake. So first and foremost, I do think some sort of apology needs to be in place on my part. When I created the Clear Sky tutorial, honestly, I thought that I was doing everybody a big favor, giving away all my street secrets to having fast clears, but honestly the vast majority of the player base is simply not going to be able to do that kind of thing. Not because of the lack in skill, but also because consoles are just that much different. Going into this, I thought the console experience wouldn't be that bad. I thought a lot of people on console were just not that good at the game, you know, big mounts but not a lot of skill. But well, you know what they say, don't judge a man until you've walked a mile in his shoes, and I walked that mile now, and I can understand why some of these people on Reddit called it an impossible task. It is a nearly impossible task. Now I know that classified gear is going to be introduced soon, I know that will make us a lot more powerful, and I also know that the global events will make the content a bit easier, but putting that aside for a second, I truly believe that for 1.8 it would be a good idea to try to balance the PvE part of the game on consoles separately from the PC. I know that this has been a topic before, where PC players mostly claim the game is too easy and that console players complain it is too difficult. And you know what? You're both right. And at this point you'll probably have some people in the comment section saying that balancing them separately is just bullshit because the content is not impossible to clear, you just gotta get good, you know? But trying to complete Clear Sky on console, even with good players, even with good builds, even with a good strategy, man, it's a fucking nightmare. And I really do believe that this is the type of shit that can push players away from the game, especially when those same players go to Twitch, come to my stream, see me do a 4-minute run on PC and then feel shit about themselves because I got 150 exotic caches and they're struggling to just get a few. No matter how you look at it, that right there, it is bullshit, true and true, and I honestly believe NPCs need to be looked at on consoles. With that being said though, that is going to be all for me today. Now for those 8 hours of time, I want to give a big fat shout out to the guys from Upper Echolon Gaming and DJ the Great for trying to get this done. You guys were a super big help, really. I don't think this would have happened without the dedication that you guys put in. On that topic though, before I go, I am kind of curious if there are any other players willing to take on the impossible task, maybe have already done the impossible task. Clear Sky under 5 minutes on console. You simply start counting the moment that you enter the mission area, and you stop counting the very second that you receive experience on your experience bar for mission completion. If you take a look at our runs, you'll see a lot of room for improvement. If you're lucky enough with the spawns and that kind of stuff, you can probably shave off about 10 to 15 seconds or so. You gotta get some good RNG, you gotta be lucky, but it is definitely possible. And if you're able to beat us, please send me a link of the footage on Twitter. I'd actually be very curious to see that. Mad respect for any team that can pull off the same miracle. But yeah, that is going to be all for today though. As always, I will see you guys later, or like they say in the Netherlands, zie je later.